Hello. Okay, part 3 and 4 did not upload, and so I am having to completely redo them, and they deleted. So I don't even remember what I said in part 3 and 4, so I'm going to go back over it again. I remember somewhat of part 2, and I was getting into the armor, the spiritual armor that we can put on to protect ourselves from this non-physical entity. Okay, let me shut this a little bit. Maybe that'll be better. A little glare. Okay, I only have a few minutes until my lunch break is up, so I'm going to try to cut this one quick, and it won't take as long to upload. Okay, so we have... so the aliens, okay, we have our demonic being, and I've got notes all over the place, and I'm in my car. So the aliens are a demonic being, and we can pretty much conclude that by now. Okay, and when we go back to talking about, I want to make this very clear, because there's a few things that I want to make sure that I include that I perhaps didn't say in the first and second video that I want to make sure I plug in. Okay, so the physical realization, okay, like when I used Roswell as an example, okay, we saw the physical, we saw the reality of something happening, but we didn't see the physical evidence, okay? The only physical evidence we had was there's a giant hole in the ground, we heard this noise and saw this light from the sky, and we got this guy claiming he's been abducted, okay? So that was the only physical, real evidence that anybody has ever had. Okay, and again, it goes back to psychological. So we never had any real evidence, like an actual spacecraft. Okay, but there was one thing that I failed to mention. Now, these aliens or extraterrestrials or angelic or demons, they keep up with our technology. I know in past, when I was listening to some videos and people's testimonies and stuff, there were slow walking, there's all these different kinds, but remember we go back to the 4 groups of 3, and we don't know exactly what those capabilities are in those groups of 3s, but we can imagine that they're pretty powerful, okay? So we're just gonna rest on that knowledge, okay? So going forward, do we want to know more about these guys? Because what we know of them is that they are an angelic being, okay? They are non-physical. From what we know about them, they are not kind to the physical, to the humans. Biblically speaking, we do have God's side. We do have the Creator's side, angels that fight for us, and things like that. And we definitely have this force of evil that is obviously against us. And not only is it obviously against us, but it holds this influence that is so powerful, absolutely so powerful, that people will go out in the streets and murder each other, burn down their towns, and lie and cheat and cheat an entire nation. Okay, that's how powerful the influence is. And when you have a group that is so powerfully influenced by all those spirits, the spirit of, you notice that the spirit of the lying spirit was number 1, because that's always the thing. It's a lie. It's a total lie. It's a deception. Okay, so I know I believe in the last video, we were talking about the full armor, okay? And talking about the full armor, in Ephesians 6, it talks about putting on the full armor of God in the New Testament, okay? And what he's talking about is spiritual warfare. And in that spiritual warfare, you can kind of compare it to a physical, like a soldier, okay? What armor does a soldier wear? He wears a helmet to protect his head, so no bullets, arrows, or anything goes through his head, goes through his brain, stops his brain. The chest, protecting the chest. You can look at this at both spiritual and physical perspectives, because you want to protect your chest. That's your heart, that's your beliefs, that's your walk in life, your stance in life, everything that is in your heart, okay? Your love, your kindness, all of those good things. But it also protects your actual organ, the heart, the guts, the chest, and it protects your back too, the spine. Because, we're always getting put on our back. We're always getting stabbed in the back. And so the full armor of God goes like this. I'll go into it. But let's talk about what demons cause? What do these aliens cause? Okay, they cause complete abduction of your conscience, which is disturbing. Number one, the fact that somebody has the power to remove your conscience from your actual body is absolutely asinine. And as a matter of fact, I do not believe in at all that the Creator is okay with that. Absolutely not. So we have the law written on our heart, okay? And then you want to mess around with creation and doing all these things. I don't think it's good at all. So the 7 traits of a demon are deception, entice, they tempt, affliction and bondage, enslavement, defilement. Defilement's probably my favorite word, because everything of nature gets defiled by the forces of evil. Okay, so the Bible, it talks about in Galatians 5:17, to walk in the Spirit is to be aware of the spirit realm. Well, aliens are in the spirit realm. Remember, they're not affected by particles in the atmosphere. They come down. Gravity works. So if gravity works, they're coming down to the earth through our atmosphere so fast that nothing penetrates them. The heat friction doesn't affect them at all. All of these things. So, and then you go into the spiritual. Okay, now what do they want while they're here? What do they always do? What do they cause while they're here? Well, they all the abductees that I've listened to in their stories, they're all very, very detailed. But I can tell you that everything that was done, and some of it was just absolutely sick, and it gave me nightmares. Tuesday night, I had nightmares. But all of it to say, here are some of the things that it's caused. It's caused like sickness, physical illness, mental illness. You get taught like false doctrine, okay, things that are false, and we hear that every single day. You're going through spiritual warfare, even in the natural realm. I know I go through spiritual warfare on a daily basis, because I'm constantly caught between being absolutely pissed off at the deception that is going on to everyone in all countries. It pisses me off to no end. Then I have to remember who the Creator is to me. And to me, He is always on His throne. He is always in control. And to me, He is my Father who is in heaven. And a good father would take care of his children. A good father would prepare his children for the world in which they were born. And if we are born in sin, and God promises to never flood the earth again, which the flood happened, we know that was scientifically proven. We have all these things detailing, like the sign of the rainbow. Many different people use the rainbow for different, but this says it was God's promise. And we know that it happens every single time it rains. So it just so happens that, biblically speaking, it lines up. You know, when God created the heavens and the earth, He created heavens. So we know this. So we know there's different realms. Okay. And I'm almost, when we think about time, we're in linear thinking. Okay. But if we remove time, I would say that we are somewhat parallel in a, how do you explain this? In a, this is just, it's deep. The spiritual, or for better terms, the non-physical, is parallel with the physical. And I think we've always kind of been that way, because the aliens have always kept up with our technology. I did make a movie about the 5G thing, so I won't bring that up right now. But I will go into Ephesians 6 and just let you know, okay, what we've been given. Okay, so we've been given warnings. The Bible is full of warnings and things like that. And even the secularists, going back in science and all this kind of stuff, they're like, look, you know, all scientists, all physicists, all of them say you have to close these wormholes. Well, if all of them say that we have to close these wormholes due to the wicked, then that's got to be biblical, right? Because the Bible talks all about that. So I'm going to go into Ephesians 6, and it talks about so many things, but I'm going to focus on the armor of God. Okay, where am I going? Oh, I'm in Matthew, not Ephesians. Okay, so in the armor of God, it like I said, it speaks for both physical and spiritual. So you can take it for what it is and word for word. And it's not confusing. And I'll break it down for you. because a lot of things in the Bible are mysteries. But here's the thing: everything in the natural, everything in everything that is in the natural is temporary. Everything unseen, okay, is eternal. We got to understand that way of thinking. We have to understand that way of thinking. So I'm gonna break this down. I only have a few more minutes, and then I'll have to do another video to catch up, because I had 2 videos that I couldn't upload. So the armor of God. So finally, and remember, we got to keep in mind that this is all psychological. Every bit of it is psychological. It's crazy how this is, but it's just amazing. Let me just go ahead and get in so I don't lose where I'm at. Okay, so I'm gonna read you what it says, and then I'm going to break it down, physical and non-physical, okay, or for better lack of terms, physical and spiritual. So, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and all the power of his might. Remember that word, that mighty spirit that we're gifted with. Remember our spiritual gifts, the spirits that we are gifted with, and then we have the spirits that afflict us. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wills of the devil. For we do not wrestle with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against rulers of the darkness of this age, and against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. What is one of the things that aliens always do? They have to be, something else has to be a host, right? So let's keep that in mind. So therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Okay, so he's telling, having done everything that you possibly can, humanly possible, to stand against this evil. Okay, so stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, which you will be able to quench all of the fiery darts of the wicked one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly, and this is speaking about ourselves, to make known the mysteries of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. Now this is Paul speaking. It's a letter that he wrote to the church in Ephesus. Now I know there's lots of research about this guy, okay, and about all kinds of stuff. He's a false prophet and all these kind of things. But let me just take that away, because I'm aware of all that information also. But let's take that away, and let's break down this armor of God, okay? So starting with the evil day, by some it refers to end times, when the evil one will launch a ferocious campaign, remember that word, campaign, against Christ and his army. A more common view is that any great spiritual contest in a believer's life could be in view here. So verses 14 and 17 represent the 6 pieces of spiritual armor. 4 are mentioned specifically, and the belt and shoes are implied. Soldiers girded themselves with a belt from which hung stripes of leather to protect the lower part of their body. Truth is considered crucial. Truth is considered crucial by Paul, because a dishonest Christian cannot hope to withstand the father of lies himself. The father of lies is who? Okay, the big deceiver. We call him Satan, the devil, the evil one. But it is, in fact, all other entities. The truth referred to here is, this is a big word, we've all used it and we all care about it, integrity. Okay, so the truth that we all care about is to preserve the integrity, like the integrity of our elections, the integrity of these positions that all of these government officials are in, that they're in really high places. You know, they should be really honest and they should be transparent. And we strive for a life of practical truthfulness and honesty. Okay, and that's definitely what we want to do. The breastplate of Roman times went completely around the body, so the back of the warrior was also protected. Remember I said the backstabbing? Okay, the breastplate was made of hard leather or metal. The righteousness that the breastplate represent is not the righteousness of Christ, which all believers possess, but it's the practical righteous character and deeds of the believers. Okay, so it's what we hide in our heart and what we store in our heart, our morals. Okay, what is the human moral? Because I can tell you right now, the angelic have no morals. Okay, they have none. You're either for the Creator's agenda or you're against it, plain and simple. Okay, the helmet of salvations. The helmet of salvation, it protects the brain. It's talking about the mind. Okay, remember we talked about the familiar spirit that always changes the mind. Okay, but the helmet of salvation, okay, the truth of the gospel of truth, that if it's firmly implanted in your mind, then nothing's going to change your mind. You cannot be confused, you will not be deceived, and you will not fall prey to any kind of deception like that, like a bunch of our friends and people that we know that are prey to the brainwashing of the media. Okay, and how we aren't that easily fooled is because we have intellect that we were gifted with. Okay, so the sword of the Spirit is the only offensive weapon in the believer's armor. This weapon is not necessarily the Bible as a whole, but the specific word that needs to be spoken in a specific situation. To have the precise word ready, a person must know the Bible intimately. Again, going back to everything that humans go through in the human experience, is all in the Bible. Absolutely everything. But it also warns of the angelic influence and that which can destroy us, absolutely destroy us. It talks about praying and about knowing who to pray to. When it says prayer with all supplication and all this, praying with all of your, in the Spirit, it's talking about in the Spirit, make sure you're in the right spirit. I can't stress how important that is. Make sure you're in the right spirit. And the Word of God, the Word of God is the Spirit of truth. Okay, so it's talking about praying, and then it goes through. The apostle was not ashamed to ask other believers to pray that he would have the courage to proclaim the gospel. Okay, so that kind of goes back to. Let me back up here. That goes back to the breastplate, okay, and goes back to the helmet of salvation. So we want to preserve truth for the next generation, right? We don't want to leave them with any kind of deception or anything like that, okay? So therefore, we have to be ambassadors of truth, which is what we all try to do, especially in the Q movement. We're trying to get this truth out there. Well, the one thing that we're doing is in order to eradicate sin, to close these wormholes for all of this demonic influence or the aliens to get through, in order to do that is we have to close out the deception. First, we have to expose it so everybody knows that it's there, and then we have to shut it down. Now that goes back to knowing the Spirit. If we're going to walk in the Spirit, then we've got to know what we're up against, okay? So I'm going to stop there before I move on, and because I got to go clock in after lunch, but I have a little bit more in the fourth video, and I think I'm pretty sure we can close it all up. So stay tuned.